In this video, we want to introduce the topic of project management. Now, in fact, we're going to look at introductory concepts and ideas associated with project management in a whole series of online classes. So it's worth looking out for the various topics that are included within the ambit of project management, and check out those videos as well. But this one will give a broad overview of what's meant by project management and look at its importance. The concept of project management has gained increasing attention within organizations, and certainly over the last probably 5 to 10 years. It's a trend that's well established, and it's also one which seems to be upwards. In other words, there seems to be more demand for project managers and for this function within business today than there's ever been. Project management is a means by which organizations can achieve their objectives, and that's the attraction of this particular approach. When an organization is posed with a problem or is looking to develop a new product or a new process, the chances are it will look to project management for insights into the efficiencies that are to be gained or the problems that may be encountered in setting up those new activities. So typically what an organization would do is set up a project management team with a project manager at its head and get them to prototype the idea, to test it out, to see what the issues are, and to come up with a plan for the implementation of the full project. It's also the case that project managers may be used in the context of existing processes, just to ensure the efficiency of existing processes and to ensure that there is adequate attention to both quality and efficiency within the system. So project management has become an extremely important area, functional area within companies. The term project management includes many functions. There are many parts to project management. It could be related to commercial and promotional campaigns. Project management may look at something within the marketing department, may look at an initiative within the marketing department to see if it is a good idea, if it's worth pursuing, or perhaps modifications are needed to it. The project management team have a critical sense. They're selected for their ability to criticize, to improve, to make suggestions and modifications. And they can do this in virtually any department of the company. So within the commercial and promotional arenas, project managers may be employed. Certainly in the case of new product development and improving customer services, this is the bread and butter for project management. New product development, before it actually happens, it may be given to a project team to dry run it, to see if it is worth doing, to see what are the pitfalls, to see what issues will be confronted. It's testing it, and it means that the project manager will have expert knowledge of the product, so that when it's implemented in practice within the business, the project manager can oversee the implementation, the training that's required, and alert the management to issues that may arise. Educational purposes, industry-specific projects. Project management is essentially dealing with learning. The organization is learning. It's learning how to perform certain functions. It's learning to avoid pitfalls. It's learning. It's a learning organization. And the project management team are feeding back information, valuable information, to the company, which will enable the company to sidestep problems and to have a greater clarity about what they're doing. Now, project management as a concept enables organizations to effectively plan, implement, monitor and control activities, and also to control people and resources. So the project management function enables the senior management to have an effective view of the business, effective in the sense that they can plan properly, they can implement their ideas, and they can monitor and control the activities of the business, because the project management team has brought them a picture, has brought them a view of the business, which they have gained through looking at projects within the business, and they have looked at the business itself perhaps as a project and have come back with ideas and comments. The development of project management is a result of management and the demands to form new methods of efficiency. So the pressure to have project management is really born out of this desire to have greater efficiency, but also, of course, to ensure the quality of the product, customer satisfaction, greater customer retention. So management are using project management as a tool to aid in their decision making, and also as a tool to ensure that there is efficiency within the organization and that quality standards are being adhered to. So there is an expansion of human knowledge, and within industry, within particular companies within industries, there is an expansion of human knowledge, not just related to what's happening in the outside world in terms of technology and the changes in society that we've seen over the last probably 20 or 30 years, which are changing at ever increasing speed, or so it would seem. But it's related to the fact that the project management team are specialists. They have expert knowledge in looking for issues and solving the issues. So the management of a business is able to look at the business and look to new methods and efficiencies, and do that through the acquisition of knowledge from the experience gained by project managers in looking at projects within the business, looking at the business itself as a project, but also in discussions with other members of the team, in feedback sessions to management, through the interplay between the various levels of management, the discussions, the criticisms, the comments, and out of this, greater clarity should emerge. Clearer thinking about what the business should be doing and how it should be doing it. Increasing demand for a range of complex, innovative and improved products and services. This is the world in which we live. Customers want more for their money. They want more complexity in the sense of that the products should be multifunctional. It should be innovative, it should be different, it should be new. We are constantly on the quest for newness. We want new products. And we want improved products and services. We want good after sales service, we want good follow-up, and we want durability and value for money, good quality. So with all of these pressures on management, they need every tool in the box, and one of the tools is project management, and it's an increasingly important tool for them to employ. Set up a team, get them to look at an individual project, discover its weaknesses, its strengths, what should be done, what should not be done, catalogue it, make notes, work out the best way to produce it, feed it back to the management. So the management have true insight into what they are likely to make a decision about. The rise of globalization, competitive markets for consumption and goods and services. Well, we know we live in a competitive world. We know we also live in one which is highly globalized, and that companies today are no longer just in competition with the companies down the road. They're now in competition with companies on the other side of the world. And the companies on the other side of the world will be doing their best to make sure their product is the best. It's the cheapest, it's the best quality, it's the most robust, it's the most innovative, it's the most attractive. They want the best product. They want to win the market. So there's pressure on companies all over to try and acquire as much information about products and markets, about customer needs and wants, about the way in which production should take place, the technology to use, and all of this requires knowledge, and it's the project management team who generate the knowledge. They can generate it and pass it back to management, who can then make more informed decisions. So what is project management? Well, this definition is given to us by Sebastian in 2007. Don't suggest you commit it to memory, it's just one which is worth having. So I would write it down if I were you, stop the video and make a note of it. It's one of several definitions that we use throughout these course of classes, video classes that we've produced. This is one, but it's like the others. The others were good. This was a good definition as well, and one worth noting. It says a project is a temporary endeavour. So projects are temporary. The functions within the business tend to be perennial. They're run day in, day out, year in, year out. Those are the functions of the business. But project management is time limited. The idea for the project is developed, is given to a project manager. The project manager is given an end date. They must report back to the management on that day or before it. So it's a temporary endeavour, whereas the manufacturing department within the business is running continuously. Project management will have specific tasks to meet, and they will report back within that time period. Report back what they have found. So a project is a temporary endeavour designed to produce a unique product, service, or result with a defined beginning and end, usually time constrained and often constrained by funding or deliverables. Funding would be the budget that the project manager is given. So the project manager will have given a certain budget to buy raw materials and pay for specialist personnel and testing, and it must be delivered. The project must be delivered within that budget. The deliverables are the outcomes, what comes out of the project. This is undertaken to meet unique goals and objectives, typically to bring about beneficial change or added value. So it's a good definition. It takes in all of the features of project management. But as I said, it's quite complex to remember. So it's worth perhaps taking a written note of it and keep it close. It's one that may be useful perhaps in assignments or in projects or whatever. Now, There are also ideas associated with what's known as primary constraints, and generally speaking we wouldn't expect to find these in an introductory class, but they're so important it's worth mentioning them here. They are dealt with in other videos on this topic elsewhere, so you can check the other videos we've got and you will find this discussed in more detail. Let's start by looking at primary constraints. Now, project management involves the following constraints. We've drawn it here in the context of a triangle. This is the way it's generally drawn and produced. And you can see at the apex of the triangle, well actually the three points of the triangle, we've got different points. So at the top we've got cost. The project must not exceed the expected budget. I've said that earlier. This is important. Projects must not exceed the budget that's allocated. On the bottom right, time, the project must be delivered on time. So when the project is set up, it's given a time scale, it must come in on that time scale. And on the bottom left, we've got scope. Projects must be within scope. And within scope means it must cover the areas that were planned. And these should be generally achievable. So it should cover certain activities. It should not be expanded too large, which would make it not feasible or make it infeasible. It should not be also perhaps reduced, which would make it easy and make the project less attractive perhaps in terms of implementation. So the scope of the project should be agreed. What's the project meant to cover? What's it meant to do? This should be itemized and should be worked towards. And in the center of this triangle we've got quality. Projects must meet quality standards. So we've got those three constraints, and this, if you like, big constraint in the center, quality. Quality must be met, must be guaranteed. Just to briefly use this this diagram to show how these constraints work. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that the cost of the project increased for whatever reason. The costs just increased. If the costs increase, now in order to stay within budget, certain functions would have to perhaps be reduced. That may impair the quality of the product. The time must be delivered according to the schedule agreed. So if the timing of the project starts to slip, it starts to become longer, there are more delays, then they would perhaps have an impact on costs. So costs would rise as well. Both of those would have an impact on quality. And if the scope of the project was to increase, it means the project has become bigger. It means also the costs would have increased and perhaps the quality would be reduced as well. For these reasons, it's to be expected that the project manager will try to control costs, the time spans involved in testing or in looking into the project, and the scope of the project will be managed as well. And if all of this happens, then the quality of the project, the quality of the output I should say, should be good standard. It should be acceptable. Now, stages in project management. Well, a project management follows the following stages. Definition. There has to be a definition of the project. what is the project about, setting goals, objectives, critical success factors. What is the project attempting to do? So there must be a definition. It must start there. Otherwise, it has no objective. It's just drifting. So it must have clarity right at the start. The goals must be set. What's it trying to do? The initiation, all resources necessary to set up the project before the initial start date. So get everything together. Get the team together. Get the premises together. Get the raw materials and the equipment. Have it all ready for the start date. Get it sorted. So at the initial start date, everything is ready to start work. And that's the initiation stage. The planning, well, overview of plans, activities, time, costs, resources, and people planning. Make sure there are detailed plans and that the plans make sense. They all fit together. There is perhaps a Gantt chart which shows timings and sequences and how one process will lead to a second process and so on. It's been planned, so it's very precise and very logical. So the plans mesh and they make sense. Then there's execution, undertaking all activities necessary to deliver the product, service or desired outcome. Make sure once all the planning has been done and once all the resources are there, make sure it's performed properly, it's worked out properly and delivered properly. And that's the execution stage. So there's diligence in the way in which the resources are used. There's a good technique, there's a good plan, and the plan is followed. Then we've got monitoring and control. Tracking and monitoring, ensuring the plans are in line with set targets. Making sure that the whole system makes sense. Make sure that the plans are being adhered to and that targets are being met. And finally, project closure. Formal acceptance of the deliverables, the outcomes if you like, formal acceptance of the deliverables and disbanding of all the elements required to run the project. In other words, the project management team will be reassigned, perhaps to a new project or perhaps back to departmental areas. The project will be closed. It'll be delivered and signed off. So it came into existence for a particular purpose. When that purpose is complete, when the timescale is up, it's disbanded. That particular project no longer exists. And that's really the overview of project management. That's the reference I mentioned earlier, the definition by Sebastian we mentioned earlier, worth having a look at. But that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.